I built the wall and I made Mexico. No, I made the spiders and the wasps pay for it.
Holy shit, the bee's back. Come on, man. Again, these things have been coming in here all day long. Driving me crazy.
There were just too many creepy little things invading my space, so I needed a little separation from the outdoors. And winter is coming. I know, that sure didn't end well, but it's still fun to say. Anyway, I'll be spending a lot of time here in the garage, where I've transformed the space into my studio. And to avoid freezing my ass off all winter, I built an insulated wall. It also cuts down on a lot of noise. Garage doors really don't seal out anything. And I painted it, so it looks a lot nicer now. It's a simple structure. 8 2x4s, 4 sheets of plywood, a pack of insulation, and some silicone to seal it off. So that's one big thing that's kept me busy over the past couple of weeks, but it wasn't the only project that I needed to get to before the weather turned south. Summer started disappearing real quick, and over at the tiny house, I've been working with really big wood. It's the biggest wood that I've ever worked with, and it's been a pain in the ass. I'm building a lean-to. I'm not really sure if it's leaning the way it's supposed to, but so maybe it's just like a weird gazebo. But basically it's a little dry spot that's going to be outside the tiny house where we can hang up wet jackets and take off your muddy boots and keep that stuff from entering the house. It's definitely a job that has introduced some new challenges. I needed to make sure I started with level spots for the pillars, similar to how I did with the new and improved exterior steps, but over a way larger footprint. With those in place, we decided it would be best if the posts were anchored into the ground with some rebar, which I've never worked with before. Once again, I'm loving the battery pack, allowing me to use my grinder off-grid. I pounded the rebar through the concrete shoes, hitting big, annoying rocks with most of them, but I got them all in relatively centered and straight. Then I had to figure out how to cut the posts so that they fit perfectly into the concrete shoes, with a bit of the rebar sticking into the post. This meant cutting into the post from a bunch of different angles until I ended up with a nub that would fit down into the shoe. Then in the center of the nub, I needed a hole big enough to fit the rebar. This took a while, and the drill got real hot. And the top part needed to be cut into a bit of a saddle in order to nicely hold the beam that would span the length of the roof. I neglected to do this on the first post, totally forgot and just chopped it off. So I'll need to figure out another way to reinforce it. And of course, a circular saw can only do so much, so I had to use some elbow grease. Speaking of the beam, I needed to drill out more large holes so that I could get structural screws far enough through them to hold the beams super tight to the posts. These took even longer to drill, and I broke one of my bits. It all worked out really well though, mostly. Shit. And that was it for day one. Well, it took me all day, but I got 3 boards together. Day 2, the other side was completed. I'm not used to needing help to lift wood into place. Big wood is hard. Ahem. With the posts and beams in place and braced up, it was time for rafters. I cut birds' mouths just big enough to cover the 4-inch beams, and up they went. Ah, remember the rookie Roost birds' mouths? Maybe I can combine some tools and make a super tool. I don't know. Does that look the same to you? Those were the days. So much confusion. I capped off the rafters with some more 2x8s, just to give things a nice solid finish. These will probably need to be painted later to hold up to the weather. Then I measured the finished plywood, threw a tarp over all of it, and ordered the metal roof. And that's gonna take a week or 2 to arrive, and then probably another week before I get around to installing it, weather permitting. So it was time for something a little different. With this whole global health issue we're dealing with, we've been avoiding staying with anyone inside their house. Luckily, after driving across Canada last year, we're quite experienced with sleeping in our car. My wife was headed to her parents' house for the weekend, so it was time to transform the car back into camp mode. We're hoping to do a bit of camping this fall, so I'll have a full video about how we transform our 2014 VW Tiguan into a little getaway car. Oh, Lady Winter just wanted help carving a pumpkin, because you know, there's a season between summer and winter. Something I've always liked about living on Canada's west coast is how distinct the seasons are. Some years it feels like a switch gets flipped in late September and suddenly it's getting dark right after dinner, the leaves are turning color, it's raining every other minute, but it feels like I can finally just take a breath and relax. Summer has so much pressure put on it to be the best time of year. The long, warm days demand to be squeezed of all their worth, whether that's getting big projects done outside or maximizing your playtime out in nature. And when it happens to rain on one of those precious summer weekends, just after you spent a whole week's worth of glorious sunny days inside, staring at your computer screen for your job, it's like the universe is trying to punish you for not becoming a school teacher. Oh, why didn't I become a school teacher? But when it's over and that summer pressure seems to dissipate into the cool fall air, it's almost like the FOMO monster finally gets bored of me and decides to go bug some college students or something. You know, 12 years of grade school probably didn't help. The end of summer meant returning to sitting back into class for 6 hours a day and then all the homework on top of that, and what you're giving up is hanging out with friends all the time and playing video games whenever you want. At least until grade 12 when I decided that I could definitely get a career in competitive gaming if I just played enough Halo. Yeah, that worked out real well. But the seasons will change regardless of what you do. This summer, I'd made a real effort to try and shrug off any kind of disappointment. The way the world was headed in the spring, it was pretty clear that things were probably not going to go back to normal anytime soon. So I was pretty pessimistic, and having just moved to a new town back in January, I had big hopes of meeting new friends and going to new restaurants and having all our old friends and family come stay weekends with us in our new place, which we had kind of chosen and set up to accommodate the most number of guests. We got a couple of visits in before March. Luckily, the tiny house accommodated, and we were able to have a few more guests throughout the year, but we definitely fell short of expectations. And I didn't do a perfect job of letting everything just bounce off of me, but it could have been worse. Considering the year we had, and it's been a hard summer for everyone, I actually feel pretty fortunate for where we've ended up and the time we've had. As we roll into fall, the expectations of what summer could have been will start to become a distant memory. New things to look forward to have already started to become apparent, like Halloween, cozy movie nights with the cats, and finally getting around to all those indoor tasks that seem to get neglected when you're so busy with all the outdoor things all summer long. Hey, found my cowbell. So here's to summer 2020. Quite possibly the lamest summer ever. Well, not really, but no, actually probably. I just miss hanging out with my friends. Anyway, for me it was a summer full of homemade burgers and tiny house upgrades and working out. I'm finally back to the weight that I was before eating our entire wedding cheesecake last year. We eloped and it was a giant cheesecake and we ate it all ourselves. I carried it around for a year. Anyway, I hope you're all staying safe out there. Let's meet down in the comments and share with me your best highlights of the summer and what you're looking forward to over the next 3 months. We can do some deep breathing exercises or something, and together we'll just let summer go and drift peacefully into a serene autumn. Oh, right, there's an election coming. Good f***ing luck with that. I'll see you next time.